Melachim Perek Chet. We're picking up with the story, the continuation of what happens to the Beit Achav after the curse of Eliyahu to Achav at the end of the Kerem Navot story. And we pick up in Melachim Perek Chet in the middle of the Perek. Vayavo Elisha Damasek. He comes to Damasek, which is present-day Damascus, the capital of Syria, but at the time it was the capital of the country of Aram. And as Elisha is approaching Damasek, the story tells us that Ben-Hadad, the name of the king of Aram at the time, is Chole. He's sick. Vayugadlo lemor. And in the meantime, the king of Aram, Ben-Hadad, finds out Ba'ish Elokim ad hena, that it is a man of God, clearly referring to Elisha, that is approaching the town of Damasek. Vayomer HaMelech El Chazael. So Ben-Hadad tells Chazael, it's somewhat ambiguous. Who is this Chazael? Is it a friend? Is it a family member? In the meantime, though, Chazael is told by Ben-Hadad, because Elisha is in town, Kach biyedcha mincha, take a present in your hand, V'lech likrat ish ha'elokim, and go towards the man of God, V'darashta et Hashem me'oto lemor, and seek out the advice of God from this man, meaning from Elisha, and ask him, He'echeyeh mecholi zeh, am I going to live through this disease? Clearly Ben-Hadad is very worried about his choli, about his sickness, and wants to know whether or not he's going to survive. Vayelech Chazael likrato, Chazael goes on behalf of Ben-Hadad towards Elisha. Vayikach mincha biyado, and just as he was commanded, he takes a present in his hand. V'chol tuv Damasek, and all the good things of Damasek, perhaps they were silks or spices. Masar ba'im kamal, together with 40 camels. Vayavo vayamod lefanav, and he goes and he stands before Elisha the Navi. Vayomer, and he says to Elisha, Bidcha Ben-Hadad melech Aram, shilachani elecha lemor. Your servant Ben-Hadad, the king of Aram, sent me to you, saying, Ha'echayeh mecholi zeh, am I going to survive this sickness? Clearly repeating exactly what he was supposed to do based on the mission he was sent. And Elisha responds to him in a very vague manner. Vayomer Elisha, and Elisha says to Chazael, Lech emor lo chayo techyeh. Go and say to him, Lamed Vav, you will live. V'hirani Hashem ki mot yamut. But in the meantime, God has showed me that he will die. So there's something very problematic here about the words, because it's unclear whether or not he's going to live or die. Because again, we can read these words differently. What if we say, Vayomer elav Elisha, and Elisha said to him, Lech emor, go and say to him, lo, chayo techyeh, no, you will not live. And that implies that he will die. So it's very, very unclear, and all of this is because there is what's called a kri uktiv, as we discussed in class. So the tone of the answer that Elisha gives to Chazael is quite ambiguous, and it really depends upon how we read the kti uktiv. And we continue with our story. Vayamed et panav, and then Elisha kind of turns his head away from Chazael. Vayasem ad bosh, and he's almost like silent or somewhat hesitant to speak. Vayef ish Elokim, and he begins to cry. Vayomer Chazael, and then Chazael says to Elisha, Madu adoni mocheh, why is my master crying? Vayomer, and Elisha responds to Chazael, Ki yadati, because I know, says Elisha, et asher ta'aseh lebnei Yisrael ra'ah, that what you will do to Bnei Yisrael will be terrible. Mivtzerehem tishalach ba'esh, their fortresses you will burn down. Ubachurehem b'cherev taharog, and you will kill their finest men by sword. Ve'ohalalehem tiratesh, and you will kill their babies. Ve'harotehem tevakeya, and the people that are harot, the women, you will split open their wombs. Seems like pretty horrific of a man when we don't really know very much about him at this point. But remember, Elisha is on his way towards Aram, really just to anoint Chazael as the next king, as we saw in Melachim Aleph. Vayomer Chazael, and Chazael responds in a very surprised manner. Ki ma avdecha hakelav, what am I, your servant, a dog? Ki yaseh hadavar gadol hazeh. So again, is he saying, I'm just a dog, why would I even do this? Or is he asking, why would I ever behave like a dog? It's again, a lot of ambiguity here in the text. Vayomer Elisha, and Elisha responds to him, Herani Hashem otcha melech al Aram. Guess what? You're it. You're the next king. Well, now Chazael has a big conflict. He has to go back to his leader, Ben-Hadad, and answer his question whether or not he'll survive his sickness. But at the same time, is he supposed to tell him that he is the next king, or should he not say a thing at all? Is this going to be a surprise to Ben-Hadad? Is Chazael possibly his son, or is it a servant? Unclear. Vayelech be'et Elisha. In the meantime, Chazael leaves Elisha with news that he has to go back to the king of Aram. Vayavo el Adanav. He arrives at his Ben-Hadad's home. Vayomer lo, and he says to him, Ma amar lecha Elisha. Ben-Hadad wants to know from Chazael, so, nu, am I going to survive? Am I going to die? Vayomer, and Chazael responds, Amar li, he said to me, Chayo tichya, you will live. Again, lots of ambiguity. Is the li here referring to he said to me, meaning I, Chazael, will live? Or is Li implying he said to me about you, Ben-Hadad, you will live? A lot of vague information throughout this excerpt. And what happens? Vayihi mimacharat. In the following day, Vayikach hamachber. He took the kerchief. Vayitbol bamayim. He dips it in the water. Vayifros al kapav. He put it and spread it over his face. Vayamot. And he died. Vayimlo Chazael tachtav. Chazael reigns after him. So this pasuk begs a lot of questions because, as you see, there are a lot of verbs in this pasuk, but all pronouns. Vayikach, he took. Vayitbol, and he dipped. Vayifros, and he spread it over his face, and he died. Clearly, that's probably referring to Ben-Hadad. And then it says Vayimlo Chazael tachtav after him. Who took the machber? Who dipped the machber in mayim? Who spread it over the king's face? So that's all questions that we need to answer together in class.